Hey folks of the YouTube, thanks for tuning in to the Mickelson Racing channel once again. Today we are working on 240 SX. I missed. 240 SX. We have to build some headers for the passenger side of this machine. I had to run to the barn real quick and grab my header building tools, which consisted of a Sawzall, some brand new Milwaukee Sawzall blades. They are the best blades that I know of. They cut through a lot and they wear out not as quickly as the other ones. And the most important tool, a Sharpie. I also have a tape measure in the barn right here, but we're probably not going to use that because we don't need a tape measure to build headers. So without further ado, let me show you what's going on underneath the car. All right, guys, so here we have the passenger side header, and as you can see, it points directly into the starter. Now, I have already cut this off, as you may have seen in a previous video, just to make this fit to where it is now. Now we have to figure out how to get this part of the header past the starter to where we can go out to the back. Now here is the collector that I saved when I cut the header off, and as you can see, we have major interference right here with the starter. So we're gonna have to cut this back a little bit more, hopefully move this back into a position that provides plenty of clearance between both the frame rail and the starter, and points us in a direction that goes this way instead of this way or down. So we're gonna have to get to cutting on that. We can maybe bash this in if we need to, but that is what we're gonna be doing on this episode of Mickelson Racing Channel. Let's get to work. Well, guys, I made the cut and I made it in the car, and that was really not a fun thing to do, but the cut is done. That's what we got so far. Here is the collector that I saved, and we have a really ugly cut, but that's kind of the way it's gonna have to be. So now we have to figure out a way to fit that nicely onto the header, as well as clear the starter and all that stuff underneath the car. So I gotta get back to work.
The next day.
Good afternoon, folks. Day 2 of passenger side header build for the 240. We didn't get a lot done yesterday, but hey, the goal is to get something done, and we came out here and worked, so can't beat that. Anyway, I made another cut to the header. I just went a little bit more this time, and now you can see I've cut a bunch of slits into each individual header pipe here, because my collector does not fit on this anymore, because I cut them at a diagonal slightly, because I want to position this in the car a little bit differently now. And that diagonal actually makes the tubing bigger. It's not a small circle. It's a round oval circle, which will make all these 4 circles in here not fit, which is exactly what's happening here. So I'm going to get this into a place where I like it, and I'm going to hammer these down to make the pipes narrower in order to fit this over the top of here. And then once I get that where I like it, I can go back in from the inside and stretch these out with this exhaust pipe expander kit tool thing that I got. And I don't know if it's gonna work that great, but we're gonna give it a shot. That's my plan. This is my first time ever building headers, and I'm sure it probably shows. And it probably shows that I'm cheap, because I'm trying to make a header that doesn't work by putting a lot of work into it. However that makes sense. Anyway, I'm going to get back to work so I can get this header in the car. After many moons of beating around a header and test fitting and beating and test fitting and hoping and praying, we finally have a collector that fits in between the frame rail and the starter. Let me show you guys. This is just barely sitting on here, so I don't really want to touch it, otherwise it's going to fall right into the camera, but we have just enough clearance in between the collector and the frame rail, We have just enough clearance in between the collector and the starter. Trust me, there's no hitting. And we got the right angle, the dangle going on here. If you guys can see that, we've got a pretty decent angle, the dangle. So I think I'm gonna call that good enough, and I'm gonna weld that sucker on. And then we can worry about the complicated piece where we got to come out of here and then bend somehow and hopefully match that end of the collector so I can put a Y pipe on there of some sort. And I don't know if we're going to go out the back or go out the side or whatever, but anyway, we've got that part done. So next step is welding. I got the 2-pound stainless steel wire spool in the Chicago Electric Harbor Freight Special Welder. Now, although I have welded before, I have never welded stainless steel before, and I have never welded with this welder before. So we're going to see how this turns out. I don't have really high hopes for it, but it's better than nothing, and it's what I got to work with, so that's what we're going to use. Check it out. We're getting our progress done. We're almost done with what I wanted to accomplish tonight, but look at it. We've got the collector tacked in place on the header. It's not beautiful. The fitment is not that great, but we'll weld it up. I do have the piece in the middle welded up down there, and that's what seals up the header from all the gases. You can see that middle piece. I had cut that off originally. There is the original one right here. So I just welded in a new one that I had made, and we got that going on. And so now we're just gonna finish up by welding up all of our seams all the way around, and that is the progress that I wanted to accomplish tonight. Then we can get to the little bit harder part, which is we got to make a little whoop-de-doo. We got to put a turn in our pipe. I'm not sure how we're going to do that yet, but anyway, let's get to welding. For having a welder that's not very nice, and for not having ever welded stainless before, I give myself credit. It's welded. You know, we're working with what we got, and we're working with the experience what we got, and which is not a lot, but we're getting the job done, and that's all that really matters. So header is welded. That's probably by far my best weld right there. There are a lot of really ugly tacks from filling in little holes and stuff that are laying around from me missing and whatever, but it's welded. I don't think it'll leak. I'm not really going to check it either. It's just going to be what it is, but that's welded. That's was my goal for the day, was to get that welded. Put that away. What are you doing, buddy? Good boy. Are you just hanging out waiting for me to be done? Yeah, me too. Anyway, that's what we wanted to get accomplished tonight. This is not the end of the episode by any means, but you know, we're taking this day by day after work, a little at a time. So we're going to try to get that other complicated piece in probably over the next couple days. That's definitely not going to be a one-day unit, but we're going to try.
12 seconds later.
Well, folks, there's all sorts of stuff I can be working on with the 240 right now. But for the exhaust, we are waiting for some parts to come in. I'm waiting for a piece of stainless pipe to extend the header out a little bit. And then I did order a Y pipe from ISR. That's the same company that makes these headers. That way we can bolt that Y pipe up and we can build the passenger side header off of the Y pipe. Make sure that all bolts together really nice. That way we can use factory produced exhaust for this car. That's going to make things a lot simpler and frankly probably cheaper. So the faster we can get this thing together, the more fun that we can all have here together on the channel. But first things first, we got a debacle. I got a new mass airflow sensor and adapter right there. I went from a LS1 3-pin to a 5-pin from a pickup truck because when that was unplugged, the engine ran better with the LS1 mass airflow. So I got a pickup truck mass airflow and hopefully the engine runs better. So I wanted to put the header on to try to fire that up to test that theory, but I can't get the header up high enough to bolt into the bolt hole after I welded the new collector on the bottom. So that means it either shifted or I got some weld that's built up or I don't know. So we're gonna have to get under the car and see why in the heck that's hitting after we just perfected fitment. So we may just have to do some hammer bashing on this deal. Let's get under the car and see what's happening. Well guys, we got pretty good news. Luckily it's just our clutch line got in the way of the collector there. So I should be able to move this out of the way somehow and then we can push our collector back up in there. You can see our collector is a little bit out of round, but I bought a tool to remedy that situation and we'll be able to make that a little bit more round. So let me go ahead and get this clutch line out of the way and we can put the header where it needs to go. Alright guys, we got the clutch line out of the way. This is just temporary out of the way right here. Well, hopefully it's temporary. Got the header bolted up to the head now and I've got my spark plug wires back on. Let's go see if my new mass airflow sensor and adapter made a difference in how this thing runs. You can see I've got a 3-pin to 5-pin adapter that's only utilizing 3 of the 5 pins there. And then we've got our external air intake temperature sensor, which I could repin to fit into this because that is part of what this is. Now it would be a little bit cleaner, although the harness may have some trouble reaching. We'll play with that at a later date. Let's see if this thing can run. All right, fuel pump on, ignition power on. Appear to be in neutral. Let's go ahead and start this thing. And I forgot to put a battery in it. Let's go ahead and put the battery back in this gosh dang thing. Then we can try to start it.
A few moments later.
Now we can try doing this. Fuel pump on, ignition on, neutral. Let's try this again. Wow, that runs 1,000 times better than with the LS1 mass airflow sensor. That was incredible. All right, that is a huge improvement, guys. Oh, that is absolutely unreal. I am so glad that that worked. That was really frustrating me when I had the first startup problem. So, boy, that is really awesome. I am thankful for that. Now, it doesn't run great, but remember, we still don't have a passenger side O2 sensor plugged in because the header is not finished. So that's probably contributing a little bit to why it's running a little bit rough still, but we're making progress. We're getting there. We are getting there. Also, we have to figure out VSS sensor. I'm not sure what this sensor is. If any of you guys know what this sensor is, drop it in the comments below, because I have no idea what this plugs into. It's on the transmission, like, breakout pigtail thing. This, I believe, is a VSS. I don't know what's in or what's out. Not really sure. But I'd like to get the VSS hooked up, because apparently the 5.3 or LS engines stall when you're driving. If you don't, I don't know. Anyway, let's get back to header work.
Much later.
All right, guys, we are back on the 240. This has been a multi-week project for me, the 240 building headers episode, because as you guys may know, we had some stuff interrupt my progress on the old 240, which includes the Caprice purchase. If you guys haven't seen that, check out that video. I'll link it either up here or below. And we also got my 1968 Chevy pickup running too. We got that out of the barn running and driving. That's a fuel-injected 454, 4L80E. All the bells and whistles on that. If you haven't seen that video, I'll also link it up here or below. Either way. All right, guys, let's get back to the 240. I've got some cool stuff to show you. Here's what we got shaking under the car. We got ourselves an ISR Y pipe here for the exhaust. Now, what this will do is it'll save me a bunch of fabrication getting the exhaust further back out of the car. It will allow us to use a OEM style 240 exhaust out the back, which will be really nice. And the main reason is it gives me a reference point right here to mount my flange of my ISR header to, and then build the remainder of the exhaust, or the header I should say, from the collector down here to the flange. So this gives me a reference point so I know how much header length I need from the collector to the flange. So that is really nice. I did have to spread it out because the ISR system is meant for a GM transmission. Now this is a Z32 transmission, so the starter hangs right off of here, which, as you guys know, led us to this debacle where we have now, building this custom header ourselves. And so the Y pipe is factory made to slam right into this starter, because on a GM transmission, the starter would not be here. So I had to stretch it out, make it wider so we can get the pipe at a more straight shot to the header collector, which is here. And I bent it too far, so that's why we got the ratchet strap on here, which is bringing it back in just a little bit. So that'll help us get stuff going there. So we do have this stainless 45-degree angle that I bought on the internet, because I don't have a tubing bender. And this fits really nicely right in here. You can see we got a pretty good seam back here, and we only have a little bit of pipe left right here. So I'm going to weld that to our section back here with the O2 sensor, and then I'll come back to the car and measure how much pipe I need to connect this 45-degree angle of stainless to the header collector. And then by that point, we should have a dang near finished up header, other than finish welding, which, you know, I don't know how that'll go yet. Might go well, might not. Doesn't matter, we're getting stuff done. We will cut our section of pipe out of this 2-foot piece of pipe that I bought on the internet. This is just a stainless 3-inch piece of straight pipe that I can cut sections out of. So I will need probably like an inch of that, and then we will have 23 inches left to play with later, I guess. I don't know. We'll find a use for it at some point. So that's what I'm going to work on. We have to get the 240 out of here because we have a race with the Impala in 4 weeks, and the Impala needs some major rear suspension work that's going to require welding and a bunch of other stuff. So we got to get the 240 out of here, and in order to get the 240 out of here, we got to finish up our exhaust. So let's get to work, actually.
A few inches later.
Okay, folks, I've been at this for like 2 hours. Check it out. We've got our flange and part with the O2 sensor welded in place. The welds are not pretty. I had some good ones, which are probably on the other side. I don't know. I had some good ones, and then I burned through a couple spots, so then I had to patch it up, and it kind of turned out like gross, but that's what we got. And then we have our 45-degree pipe that I bought tacked in here to the collector, and then I had to build a little pipe. It was like 1 1/16 filler pipe that I put in here, and then I just had to cut up some little fillers because the angle of the dangle was not quite perfect. So I got those tacked in, and then the whole deal is tacked in right now, ready to be welded up. So I'm going to go ahead and weld that thing up now, and we will have a complete header, whether I like it or not. So that is the deal. And then I haven't decided if I want to put it back in the car and test fit it first, or if I want to go to immediately start header wrapping the thing, because it has to be header wrapped. Otherwise, the starters on these Z32s just go to heck right away, and they're gonna kick out. So we really got to header wrap it before we want to run it anytime soon. And we do want to do a first start on this thing, so that'll be a cool video also. But anyway, too much blabbing. Let's get to welding up these headers. All right, folks, we are back. It's yet another day of working on headers with August. We are doing the 240 headers here, and I am not even going to test fit our newly welded hack job of a header on the car, because I am so confident that this thing is going to work. We are just going to go ahead and go straight to wrapping the header. This particular brand of header wrap suggests that you soak it in water before wrapping. This provides a nicer, tighter seal with the wrap to the header pipe. So we are going to do that after we cut this to size. Now, to cut this to size, I am just going to set it on the header pipe. So I'm going to wrap this back and forth and terminate up here where the old wrap begins, because this part has been wrapped. Actually, the whole header was wrapped when I got the car. I just had to remove this part of it when building the new header assembly. So this should be pretty quick and simple. Now that I said that, it won't be, but anyway, why don't you guys tag along and watch me do this.
One eternity later.
So we got the header wrapped. That was, I believe, my second time ever wrapping a header. So not bad. The turnout is not that bad. It looks pretty good, pretty uniform. We had a little bit of trouble down there by the O2 sensor port, but you know, we got around it. We're doing all right. We wrapped over some of the old wrap where it was a little faded. We do have one part here that's not perfect, but I'm not too worried about up here. It is down here by where the starter is close to the header that I was most worried about, and we got that part covered. So we are very good as far as header wrap in that area. I'm hoping that it fits back in the car now after all that extra wrap and girth and stuff. But that'll be our next task right now. So one thing to keep in mind is this stuff is not the fiberglass stuff, but there are some fibers in it that will act like fiberglass, and it'll make your hands really itchy if you contact it with bare hands. So make sure you guys are wearing gloves when you guys are handling this stuff. And also the water is really nice. That was a huge help to make it, you know, on there really tight. You could really stretch it a little better with it soaked in water. And I think when the engine fires up or something, somehow it shrinks with the, I don't know, whatever. It was really nice to use. And then make sure you fold the end over before and after so that it doesn't fray. That is the key to keeping it from fraying out, because this stuff frays really, really quickly if not handled, if not permanently handled somewhere. So make sure you guys fold it over and wear gloves. Let's get this header in the car. Guys, we win! We successfully have a 240 with an LS in it that's got headers on both sides of the engine. That one was a son of a gun to get in there because of the Z32 transmission we are using, which puts the starter right in the way of where the header would normally go. We got a starter here, we have a header here, we have it wrapped to hopefully protect the heat. And look at that 3-inch header in between the frame rail and the starter. It takes up every square inch of room we have. We have our O2 sensor in place. We have our flange for our Y pipe bolted up on both sides. Another O2 sensor here for the driver's side. And we have our Y pipe going out the back right here. And this will allow us to use an OEM style exhaust that you can buy on somewhere cheap like eBay or Amazon or whatever. So happy with the way that turned out. We're probably going to have to wrap this Y pipe to keep the heat down underneath the seats in the cabin. But for right now, we're going to run it like this because I don't feel like wrapping the Y pipe. That is a wrap on the header video. The 240 LS swapped with headers on both sides. That was the first time I have ever built my own headers. I'm not going to say I did a great job. That was my first time welding stainless. I've also heard that welding stainless with a MIG welder is probably not the best way to go. We did use stainless wire, so at least we tried. And then that was my second time ever wrapping a header. I think we did an all right job at that, but I'm happy with the way it turned out. This car is going to be able to go and have some fun with it and whatnot. I can't wait to start this thing. I can't wait to hear it. I want to see it run and drive. Now that we have full exhaust, it's going to be freaking awesome. And don't forget to like and subscribe right here in the corner of this video. That helps the channel out a lot. We're trying to grow this small little channel into something, well, a little bit bigger. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you next week on the Mickelson Racing channel.